When did you realize a family member had completely lost touch with reality? Okay, buckle up, because this is a wild one. So I realized my uncle had completely lost touch with reality about 6 months ago, and honestly, it was one of the most bizarre, heartbreaking, and chaotic things I'd ever witnessed in my entire life. A bit of backstory: Uncle Mark was always the black sheep of the family. He had a few run-ins with the law back in the early 2000s, mostly petty stuff, small-time drug dealing, that kind of thing. But he somehow managed to stay relatively stable for years after that. Worked odd jobs, tried to stay under the radar, keeping a low profile. Fast forward to last year, Mark calls me out of the blue acting super paranoid, like full-on they're watching me conspiracy theory level paranoia. At first I thought maybe it was stress or something, so I didn't push too hard, but then things escalated quickly. He started sending me insane texts like, the government put a chip in my coffee, and I caught my neighbor trying to break into my mind through the Wi-Fi. Then I found out he wasn't smoking anything, had actually quit drugs for like 2 years. One afternoon, I get a call from my aunt freaking out because Mark had barricaded himself inside his tiny apartment, claiming the CIA was coming to extract him because he had all the secrets. They kicked the door down, and he was muttering about how he was an undercover agent sent to expose a massive pharmaceutical conspiracy involving mind-controlled drugs. At that point, I knew something was seriously wrong. We got him a psych evaluation, and he was diagnosed with a severe episode of paranoid schizophrenia. Here's where the story gets even crazier. The family, especially my aunt, wanted to try traditional meds and therapy, but Mark absolutely refused to admit anything was wrong. He even started posting wild videos on Facebook, where he ranted about government cover-ups, how they implanted devices in his body, and how I was in on it. People from our small hometown started messaging me, saying my uncle was losing it publicly, and it was embarrassing. So we stopped talking for a bite, except I was increasingly worried he might hurt himself or someone else. Then came the twist. Last month I got a random message on Instagram from Mark's old dealer. Yeah, the guy from back in the day who mysteriously disappeared after a big bust years ago. He told me he'd seen Mark around town, looking gaunt, paranoid, but talking about one thing: a secret warehouse full of illegal drugs and cash that apparently belonged to Mark because he'd found the blueprint. I didn't believe it, and by this point even the cops were confused. He wasn't violent but was clearly delusional, and tried to bribe them with fake bills and some weird magic powder he said would cleanse the corrupt. So I did the only thing I could. I went to visit him at the hospital. But before I went, I talked to one of his therapists and learned Mark's episodes were triggered by something we never suspected. His old dealer had actually slipped him pure PCP during their last contact, which just shattered what little grip on reality he had left. The dealer was using him to score sympathy money and then watch him spiral publicly. That's when I really lost it. I cannot stress enough how furious I was. Every time Mark's name came up, the dealer laughed about how he had broken him again. So I decided to get creative with my revenge. I dug into the dealer's social media, followed a bunch of leads, and eventually tipped off the police about a massive drug ring that dealer was running weeks before he did any more damage. Turns out the dealer was overseeing a huge narcotic shipment through some local ports. Fast forward a month, and the dealer is sitting in prison, all thanks to me. Mark, meanwhile, is finally on proper medication and starting to stabilize. He still has a long way to go, but the paranoia episodes have faded significantly. The family's finally getting a semblance of peace, and for the first time in years I feel like I actually helped him fight back, not just against mental illness, but against the toxic cycle that dragged him down in the first place. So yeah, that's when I realized my uncle had completely lost touch with reality. But more importantly, it's when I realized how far I'd go to save him from the people trying to profit off his breakdown. Feels like I rolled into my own little battle, and for once, I won.